aggregated transformation and the performance tuning of aggregated transformation. Regarding case study 13 about union transformation, I will discuss tomorrow. Today's class we discuss about sequence generated transformation, stored procedure transformation, and the rank transformation and normalizer. Now, the business requirement of this business case 13. Yasin, we just started the class just now. Regarding the business case 12, we will discuss tomorrow. Now today is business case 13. Now the purpose of this lab is to extract data from SRC vendors table and load the data into TGT vendors table. But every time when you load the data into this table, you delete what was existing previous in the target table. You delete the data in the target which was previously loaded. And also the requirement is you need to generate a sequence number. While loading the data into this table, you need a supplier key that will be used as a sequence. Whenever you insert the data into this table, you have to enter a sequence number along with it. So in this requirement, there are two requirements as per this. One is while loading the data into the target table, you have to generate a sequence number to be loaded into supplier key column whenever you insert a new record into the target table. Debugger, right? Yeah. Debugger I'll discuss tomorrow. I have already the mindset of starting this. Debugger will be taught tomorrow, definitely. Sequence is nothing but a surrogate key. Yes. Answer to your question, Sita, yes. Then, before you load the data into the target table, delete the previous data. What's the meaning of this is, let's say today you loaded the data into the target table. Today, what is the date? Let's say 26th. You have loaded into the target table. Then next day, while loading next day data, that is next day when you load 27th data into the target table, delete the 26th data in the target table before you load 27th data. This is the business requirement. Means every time when you run the session, it should delete the data if it is existing in the target table. So two business requirements to be done here. So first let me import the table structure. Import from the source database. SRC vendors is my source table. Target table. This is case study 13. and you load the data into the target table, create expression, and here from supplier ID to supplier ID, while inserting the data into this table, for supplier key you need to generate the sequence number. You need to generate the sequence number. To put a sequence number while inserting the data into the target table, Informatica provides you with a transformation called sequence generator transformation. The purpose of this sequence generator transformation is to generate a sequence number. So, for that, Informatica provides you with a sequence generator transformation. In data warehouse projects, we use this transformation to generate the surrogate keys. So, it has two columns. Let me create it and explain you. Syntax for sequence generator transformation is SEQ so next val, connect it to the sequence generator transformation. So whenever you create a sequence generator transformation in Informatica, it has two values, next val and cur val. So when you go into Informatica, let's say you have a sequence generator transformation which has next val and cur val. These are the columns. Then you have the target table, which has a column called supplier key and supplier ID and other columns. Now the data is coming from your source, then to your expression transformation, where it has only supplier ID. So you connect the supplier ID to this, and you have to connect the next val to this. So the data in your source, example, you have a supplier ID, and other columns also are there, but let me put it as 501, 502, 503. This is your supplier ID. This has to be inserted into the target table. So you want to generate a sequence number. So whenever you insert supplier ID, along with a sequence number should be inserted into your supplier key. But where should it start from? Where that number should start from? If you are familiar with your databases, you will have this. There will be a start with, this is create sequence. In Oracle, they call it as create sequence. In SQL Server, on the column properties itself, you can set it up if you want the sequence number to be generated while loading the data into the target, into that table. So start with at what number you want to start and how you want to increment. Every time the number has to be changed, how you want to increment by one number or two numbers or three numbers, you want to set it up. Then end value, where it should end, that process of sequence numbers. These three will be given in any sequence generator. This is not a new concept. This is there in the databases. So in Informatica, you have that transformation. So end value start with an increment by. So where you want to start it. Let's say you want to start at 7001. You want to increment by 1. And end value, you can give 10,000 or 20,000, whatever you want to give, or Informatica provides you with a default value, default end value. So look at the mapping, properties. The start value is not that what I have discussed. Wherever you want to start it, it should be the current value in Informatica at the property level. It should be its current value. where you want to start it. I'll tell you the importance of the start value later. So 7001 end value increment. You want increment by 333, or you want increment by 555, or you want increment by 1. This is your end value. So current value, end value, increment by. So this is end value is 64-bit value. This is Informatica supports 64-bit architecture. So this value is 64-bit. So this is a huge value, especially in data warehouse projects you use for dimension to generate dimensional keys, surrogate keys. So this will not end. This many records will not be there in a dimension table. So increment by 1, current value, end value. This is what you require in data warehouse projects. The other properties I will tell you in few minutes. So this is the current value. So let us go. You specified the current value as 7001 and you said increment by 1. What happens when you execute Informatica? Or I'll put it the target here itself. So what happens when you execute this? Here the value comes from the source is 501. Now you put 7001 as a current value and you said increment by 1. So what Informatica does as soon as you execute the session, this value, for first record, this value will go into your next value, internal process, and that will come here as 7001. Then 501 and 7001, it will go and insert it as 7001 and 501 in the target table. Now when the next record comes in, Informatica does row by row process. Here what happens? It will now increment by 1. Now it will increment by 1 to 7002. This happens in the next val port. So now it has incremented by 1 and it is sent 7002. So you go and insert into the target table along with the surrogate key 7002. Then the next record, row by row process, next record comes in. Now for this 7002, it will increment by 1. Then the output is 7003. That will go into your target table. So this is the way it will generate a sequence number. Now the session is completed. So when the session is completed, what Informatica does after the session completed is, it will take the last value of the next val port. It will take the last value of the next val port, 7003, and it increment by whatever your increment value is. Then it will put that value of 7004 as current value and stores it in the repository. It will store in the repository of Informatica. Last value which is loaded, that was in the next val plus the incremented value, that will be stored in the repository of Informatica as 7004 in this case. That is what is the current value. Now next time when you execute the session, or next day you execute the session, let's say you have extracted the data is having 504 and 505. If your supplier ID data comes in into your, when you execute the session next time, now what does next val will contain? Whatever was stored for the first record, whatever is the current value that will be sent to the Informatica next val. So next val will send 7004. Internally it will write an insert statement and insert the data of 7004 and 504. The next record comes in. The next value will get incremented by 1. So the output is 7005. That will be loaded into this table. Then the session is completed. Then it will put the final value 7005 plus whatever is incremented, that 7006 will be stored in the repository of Informatica. So you have to use next val, which will have the incremented values. Current value holds the last value plus the incremented value in your repository. This is how the sequence generator works in Informatica. This is what we require as a data warehouse project. But if you have a business scenario where, let's say you have put the end value as 50,000, and if you enable this cycle, whenever it reaches the maximum value, that end value to 50,000, and if you enable cycle, then you should put a start value where you want to restart it. Let's say you want to restart at 5001. When it reaches an end value, starting it has to be in the current value. When it reaches the end value, you want to restart it. At what value you want to start it, then you specify the start value. Then you specify this, the start value. That's how Informatica works. Or if you use reset, every time when it loads, it will start at the current value only. Means it will not update your repository. If you have initialized to the current value to 7001, every time you execute the session, it will start at 7001 only. If you want that, then you set it up as a reset. Restart the sequence at the current value each time a session runs. Means every time it will start at 7001. That means it will not update the repository. It will be there at 7001 only. In that scenario, you need a reset. These are the other options of the sequence generator transformation in Informatica. So, but we will do only 7001 increment by 1. That's what we require in the supplier key. When you load the data, it will insert single along with it a sequence number incremented, and the last value when it has loaded plus the incremented value will be stored in the repository for current val or current value. Clear about sequence generator, please?
Hey, Vijay.
Yeah.
So where have you mentioned the natural key in the sequence generator?
In the sequence generator?
So it has to generate the sequence based on a natural key, right?
Natural key is the OLTP system you're talking about?
No, if it is a supplier ID, it has to generate the sequence number based on the supplier ID, right? The supplier key.
Just means supplier ID you have a supplier ID.
Right, but in the sequence generator, nowhere it has mentioned that it's based on the supplier ID that the supplier key has to be generated, right?
No, it is nothing to do with the supplier ID. This is nothing to do with the supplier ID. Whenever you insert the data into the table, generate a sequence number to this supplier key. This supplier.
Oh, okay. Say it's not actually based on the key to generate sequence. It is that it just create a running sequence number every time a new record comes in.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the supplier key, you will put every time a sequence number. Every time you insert a record of supplier ID and all, this supplier ID information is coming from your source. Along with it, I will generate a sequence number.
Yeah.
Whenever I insert one number into it, I'll put one sequence number in the supplier key field. I may start at 7001 or 1001 or 1 or whatever. So, but whenever I insert it, I'll put one sequence, unique number.
Okay, so if on tomorrow's execution, if I get the same supplier ID, will I get the same supplier key that I inserted today?
No. Tomorrow, for example, let's take the situation. Tomorrow, the data coming from your source is 501 and 506. So, what is the value stored in the current value as 7006? Because the last number it was, please listen everybody, So last number the question from Yasim is, tomorrow if I get a supplier ID 501 again in my load, what happens? That is the question of Yasim. So second time when we loaded till 7005. So 7005 plus 1, the final value will be stored in 7006 in the repository. Next time you execute the session. In the supplier ID you have 501 and 506. So it is 501 will come in. So what will sequence generator will do? For the first record, when it comes with a 7006, that is stored in the repository, for the first record, first sequence number, it will put 7006 in your next val. Then it goes, this 7006 goes to the supplier key. It is nothing to do with the supplier ID, what you are going to load into the supplier ID. Whenever you insert a new record into the supplier ID, this target table, it will generate a new number, unique number will be inserted.
Okay, got it, Vijay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. No, surrogate key cannot have duplicate values. Surrogate key will have only unique sequence number. Whenever you insert a new record, please hold on for a minute. Okay. Now let me take first question of Sita, then I'll come to Biba's question. If we do reset, duplicate value occurs. Yes, it will occur to your question. First question for Sita's question, first one, yes, it will occur. Now the second question, can surrogate key have duplicate values? This reset concept, the reset concept will not be used in data warehouse projects. Please have clarity very clear. Reset cycle are the options provided by the Informatica tool. Options provided by the Informatica tool. If you want to use it in some business scenarios and all that stuff, you can use it. But if you want as a thumb rule for data warehouse projects, we need to set the current value and increment value. Because in data warehouse projects, surrogate key is a unique generated number, and it will be for you as a thumb rule, it will be a primary key. Surrogate key will be the primary key. So surrogate key cannot have duplicate values in data warehouse concept. Reset cycle will not be used in data warehouse for generating surrogate keys. That is the answer to the second and third question of Biba. So there is no duplicate values, duplicate surrogate keys, please. Whenever you insert a new record in your dimension table, if you are talking data warehouse concept, surrogate key will have a unique. Whenever you insert, my statement, please listen. Whenever you insert a record into the dimension table, it will have a unique number. So duplicate, the reset cycle is an option of Informatica, that's all. Now coming to the second requirement of your data warehouse, of your business case 13. Before you load the data into the target table, delete the previous data. That scenarios, I don't know. Sita, I don't know where they use it. I don't have a thought process for that. I didn't think about it in data warehouse projects. So I don't have idea. Is this the first mapping for the day? Yes, Yasin. Case number 12 will be discussed tomorrow. If we get unique natural keys, then we use sequence generator. You see, that is a data warehouse concept, Yasin. Now we are discussing just in Informatica what sequence generator does. One, If you move away from what we are discussing sequence generator for a transformation perspective. Now to your question, to answer to Sita's question, okay, I thought you were asking a question. Yes, that was discussed in data warehouse concepts class. When we had the data warehouse concepts class, we will have natural keys will be used as a sequence generator. Why we should use a surrogate key? That was we discussed extensively in the data warehouse class. Okay, thank you very much, Yasin. Now, coming back to the mapping, before you load the data into the target table, you have to delete the previous data. Okay, to delete data in a table, how you delete it? You write a delete statement. Delete from TGT vendors. So how you delete? Then you say commit. So what happens in Informatica? Is now business requirement says you have to delete the data. So in this example, what we have given is, if you go to your business case study, on page number, I don't know the page number, there is a stored procedure. In that target database, there is a stored procedure. You have to create it. Please write it down. You have to create under your target database, go to SQL Plus and create a stored procedure. So I have created already a stored procedure in my target database. This is my target database. I have created a stored procedure. This is the stored procedure in the target database. Please write down a point there. You have to create this stored procedure yourself. In the document we have provided. Have you got that document? Have you seen? I don't know in which page it is. Let me check. For business case 13, there we have given you the stored procedure. Yeah, page number 41. Thank you. So in page number 41, you have the business case. Please write down, please create this stored procedure in your database in the lab. So create or replace the procedure TGT underscore vendors underscore proc, delete from TGT vendors commit. Now what I want to do this is, from Informatica, you have a provision to execute a stored procedure which is already there in the database. From Informatica, you can execute a stored procedure which is already there in the, you can execute a stored procedure which is already there in the database. Stored procedure should be there in the database and you have to execute it from Informatica. From Informatica, you want to execute the stored procedure. How to do it? A stored procedure already created in the database. From Informatica, you want to execute a stored procedure. For that, Informatica provides you with a transformation called stored procedure transformation. For that, Informatica provides you with a transformation called stored procedure transformation. It contains input port, output port, and R port. R port is the return port. We will discuss later what is the importance of the R port. Now, using the stored procedure transformation, you can execute a stored procedure which is existing in the database. Using the stored procedure transformation, you can execute a stored procedure which is existing in the database. So if you use in Informatica, so when you use this in Informatica, it should be its work of this transformation is only to execute it in the database. Which means that stored procedure should be existing in the database. So I'll give a name for this. TGT vendors proc. SP is the naming convention. TGT vendors proc create. Where is that stored procedure? It should be in your target database, which I have already created. So you also, first you have to create the stored procedure, then come to Informatica mapping. So I have created a stored procedure. Because it is in the database, like a table, you need to connect to the database to import the stored procedure and say OK. So this is your stored procedure transformation pertaining to that is TGT underscore vendors proc stored procedure. Now, when you want to execute this stored procedure, as per our business requirement, what we want to do, delete the previous data in the target table. Whenever I load the data into the target table, I should delete the previous data. I should delete the already existing data in my target table. I want to delete it. When should I execute the stored? When you execute the stored procedure, if you execute that stored procedure, what it will do? It will fire the delete statement on the target table, on the table which I have provided. That is delete from TGT vendors. It will go and delete the target table and say commit. So, if you execute that stored procedure, it will be deleted. But as per my business requirement, I want to delete when? Before I load data into the target table, I want to delete the data. Before I load every time data from my data into the target table, I need to delete it. I need to fire this delete statement. That is embedded in my stored procedure. Time button. 1 minute. ఇప్పుడే తీసుకపోకు మెషిన్ ఇయర్ క్లాస్ లేదు 9 వరకు ఉంది క్లాస్ ఇప్పుడు ఏం లేదు తీసుకపో ఓకే stored procedure. So when should I execute this? That is the question mark. Just before the first record is loaded into my target, I'll execute the stored procedure. So in Informatica, stored procedure can be executed in total 5 scenarios. That is, just before you load the data into the target table, you want to execute the stored procedure through Informatica, then you set it to stored procedure type to target preload. Or after you load complete data into the target table, you want to execute a stored procedure which performs outside the logic of Informatica. Whatever you have written in the stored procedure, that will be executed. So after you completely load the data into the target table, then you set up a post load. Sorry, పనిచేస్తలేదు voice. So stored procedure, target preload, target post load. Just before you load the data into the target table, if you execute a stored procedure from Informatica, then you set it to target preload. After the complete loading of data in the target table happens, then you call it as target post load. If you want to, after you execute the mapping session, just before you extract the data from the source, you want to execute it, then you set it to source preload. After you execute the stored procedure, after extraction of data, you want to do execution of a stored procedure, then you set it to source post load. Or for every record you want to execute the stored procedure, then you set it to normal. or based on some conditional data you want to execute a stored procedure, then you set it to normal. So in Informatica, you can execute a stored procedure based on different scenarios. Just before you load the data into the target, you set it to target preload. After you load data completely into the target table, you want to execute it, then you say target postload, source preload, source postload, normal. These are the 5 options, which they call it as procedure type. So target, for us in this business requirement, our business case, just before you load the data, you execute the stored procedure. So it will delete the data in your target table. So you set the stored procedure to, under the properties, stored procedure type. Under the properties of stored procedure transformation, you have the called target preload. You have the scenario called target preload. So you set this to target preload. So in Informatica, stored procedure type, target preload. So this will execute. When you set this to target preload and say OK, then it will execute the stored procedure just before you load the data into the target table. Just before the first record is loaded into the target table, the stored procedure will be executed. Then call text. Here you give the name of the stored procedure. And if you have arguments, that is in-out parameters. In a stored procedure, you can give in and out parameters. You can pass on the parameters to the stored procedure transformation. In any stored procedure in the world, if you look at the stored procedure, you can give in-out parameters. So you can pass on input to the stored procedure explicitly. Then you can get a return value, that is out value. So in-out parameters, they call it as in stored procedure. You're familiar with stored procedure, you will understand this. In, you can pass in, then you can return out. So input parameters, if you want to give it, then you have to put it in this argument, in this bracket open and put the arguments. But this stored procedure doesn't need that because it is just a delete statement. You are not passing any parameters to it, just you are saying delete the table, delete the data from the table. So you have to name this call text. You have set this to target preload. That's all you have to do in this mapping. Then it has ports. If you are sending input parameter, then you have to give the fields input and output parameter. Output you want to receive. Then you have to create port as input. Then return value will be your output. That you will do it in Informatica. This R port I will discuss in few minutes. So, but there are no input, there are no output to this. Only it should be executed the stored procedure at the target table, at the database. So you specify this. So properties of stored procedure, target preload, and the call text. You have to provide the call text. Please write down your document somewhere. You have to provide the call text for this procedure name only. No input parameters and output parameters. So this is what is called as a stored procedure. Are you clear with the stored procedure transformation, please? To understand this, you should have idea about stored procedures. In a basic terminology, if you understand it, the thing is, stored procedure is in the database, you are executing from Informatica. When you want to execute it, that's what you are setting up before you load the data into the target table or after you load the data into the target table. That sets you are doing it. Sita and Biba, are you clear? Okay. Now, let me execute this. So, to execute this, if you observe this, one thing in this is not linked to any of the mapping other transformations. Other transformations are linked. but it is not linked to any of the transformation. This type of transformation is called unconnected transformation. I will explain you what is the difference between connected and unconnected, but just have an observation on this. Now I save this work. You open your sheet. Please write it down on this. So when you create the session of Informatica, source connection, target connection, change bulk to normal. Then as a lookup, which is in it from lookup, you are going to get the data from a file. The same way stored procedure is in a database. So when Informatica executes it, it has to connect to that database. So for stored procedure transformation, where you will provide under these transformations, you provide the connection information, user object, you define that, you give it the target connection because it is on the target database. You give the target connection and you say OK and save your work. So open your sheet, write down this. For stored procedure also you have to give the connection information. So let me create the workflow. So select to start from TGT vendors. Now I want to execute this. So it has loaded the data in my target table. So there are 29 records. So it has loaded 29 records into my target table. The last number it has loaded is 7029. Now, as per our discussion of sequence generated transformation, whenever the session completes, whatever the last value it has loaded plus the incremented value will be stored in your repository. So it should store 7030 in your repository for sequence generator current value. Let us go and see it. It has not updated to 7030. You cannot see it, you are not able to see it because already you have connected to that stored repository. Session has updated, but it cannot automatically refresh it. It cannot automatically refresh and show you 7030. So to see the value, let us disconnect and connect again. This time it will go and refresh from your repository, and this is the value for your checking purpose. So it is 7030. This is the current value. So next time when you execute it, it will start at 7030. Now, another test we have to do is, this stored procedure, is it really deleting the data in my target table? I've set it to target preload. It has to delete the data in my target table. How do I know now? I'll re-execute this mapping. When I execute it, it should delete this data. It will reload the fresh data, same data only for us, but it should delete this data. But when it loads, it should start at 7030. So now the stored procedure will delete the, before also it deleted, but there was no data, we don't know. Now it will delete this data. Same data will load, but it is a second round I am doing it. So it should load at 7030. So 7030, it should put it in your sequence generator. So let me execute this. I'll re-execute this. Succeeded. Now let me see the data now. Order by. So it started at 730. Means it has deleted the previous data using the stored procedure. And when it has reloaded, it has started at 730. This is how is the test. Are you clear? This is what is called as a stored procedure executing. So in this case, in your projects, in your business requirement, you may want to execute a stored procedure. You create a stored procedure transformation, but that stored procedure should be in the database. Clear, Rupali? Now, if you observe the mapping, it contains this. Look at this. And in lot of transformations which we have seen, we call some transformations are active, some as passive transformations. The definition of active transformation is the number of rows which are coming into the transformation and the number of rows which are going out of the transformation may not be equal. The number of rows which are coming into the transformation and the number of rows which are going out of the transformation may not be equal. So in that scenario, that transformation is called as active transformation. Example, you have a transformation. Called aggregator. Yesterday's example. How many records were going into the transformation? There were 9 records which were going into the transformation. And how many records are coming out of the transformation? 4 records. Not the same number of records coming out of the transformation. So this type of transformation is called as active transformation. Another example is filter. Filter is a chance that it may reduce the number of rows going out of the transformation. Those type of transformations are called active transformations. Like if you look at expression transformation, the number of rows coming in and the number of rows going out will be the same, equal number of rows. If you have observed it, we put as a best practice also, you do whatever you do, 9 rows if you go in, 9 rows will come out of this transformation, then this is called as passive. If you look at the lookup transformation also is a passive transformation, because based on the condition, lookup transformation will either return a value or it will return a null value. But the number of rows, it will check if there are 15 rows coming in, output will be 15 rows, either null or value, but it will be same number of records coming out. So this is called as passive transformation. Sorter is an active transformation. Why? Sorter has a property called distinct. So for example, if you use a distinct and if you have duplicate values coming from your source, let's say you have 4 records, each one 4 rows, let's say 101, 101, 102 and 102. Then you want to sort the data. Then you say distinct. If you say distinct, what it will do? Output will be 101 and 102 only. Distinct values it will send. So the number of rows coming in and the number of rows going out, there is a chance. Then that type of transformations are called active transformations. The number of rows which are coming in and the number of rows which are going out is equal, then it is called as passive transformations. Then connected and unconnected transformations. In a mapping, if you look at it, this transformation which is not connected to the mapping data flow, then it is called as unconnected transformation. The transformations which are part of the mapping data flow are called as connected transformation. So, in Informatica, in a transformation like source procedure transformation may be connected or unconnected. Unconnected means, connected means part of the mapping data flow. Unconnected means separate from the mapping data flow. Connected will execute for every record passing through the transformation. Connected will execute for every record passing through the transformation. Unconnected will be called. When it is called only it will be executed, or you set up a condition like target preload, target postload. Based on some condition you are calling the stored procedure, then it is called as unconnected. Whereas connected transformation means it is every record is passing through that transformation. Returns multiple values. If it is connected, it will return multiple return values. It will return multiple return values. Like you give employee number as an input, and it may return employee name. Stored procedure will return out parameters. Employee name, his salary, his commission. So multiple values can be. These are called out parameters in stored procedure anywhere in the world. If you give input to the stored procedure, that is called in parameters. So it can return multiple return values if it is connected transformation. If it is unconnected transformation, it will return only one value. It can return only one value, not more than that. It will return only one value, like a function. That's why you use the port called R port. In unconnected return value, it can return only one value. It will not return multiple values. And the port will be used when in an unconnected return value, R port. For stored procedure which is connected, you will use output ports. Stored procedure connected can have input arguments, whereas unconnected will not have input arguments. It can just return the values. Default values we will be discussed when we come to the case study. What is a default value? This is the difference between a connected stored procedure and unconnected stored procedure transformations in Informatica. So based on the scenario, those transformations will be connected or unconnected transformations. Generally, stored procedures will be used as unconnected, and the lookup transformation also will be used as unconnected transformations. We will discuss in the advanced case study of Informatica, where we will show you how unconnected stored procedure can be used and R port can be used in unconnected stored procedure. Clear, everybody? Till here? So, sequence generated transformation, connected, unconnected transformations. Now, there is a transformation called a normalizer, which we will be discussing now. The business requirement is extract the data from SRC accounts table and load the data into TGT accounts table. Extract the data from SRC accounts table and load the data into TGT accounts table. Let me show you the output of this, then I hope you will understand it better. Select the star from TGT accounts. Let me show you the source. Select star from SRC accounts. There is a single row data. The requirement is there is a single row data and it has to load into the target table as multiple rows, converting single row data into multiple rows. Look at the data very carefully. Understand the data. It is 1997 salary accounts record. Amount 1 field, that is a field. For amounts there are 12 fields. There are 12 fields. Means the understanding of this is, for amount 1 field is pertaining to the year 1997 for that account salary. That is the amount paid in the month of 1, that is January. Amount 2 means second field of amount pertaining to February. This is the understanding of the data for salary 1997. Amount 3 means for the month of March, that is month 3, 1997 salary, this was being paid. Like this, there are 12 columns in this. So 12 months of data in a single row, it is there in your source table. Now when I load this data into my target table, it should load as multiple records like this. 1997 salary, month 1. 1997 salary 2, month 2. 1997 salary 3, month, amount 3. Like this, it has to load the data into the target table. So my business requirement is to extract the data from SRC accounts table and load the data into TGT accounts table. So in this SRC accounts table, you have a single row data, single record, single row data with multiple columns, convert it into multiple rows. For that, Informatica provides you with a transformation called a normalizer. The purpose of this normalizer transformation is to use like a source qualifier when your source is a VSAP. It's a mainframe. So when your source is a VSAP, you use normalizer transformation. I don't have a source like VSAP, but normalizer can be used in a different scenario. If your source is a flat file or a relational, you will use normalizer when you want to generate multiple records from one record. When you want to generate multiple records from one record, then you use normalizer transformation. Example, single row data convert into multiple rows. Actually, as per this, there are 3 rows in my source table as per this slide. So how many rows it will load? It will load 36 records. For first row, 12 records, second row, 12 records, third row, 13 records. So it will convert into multiple rows. Single row data converting into multiple rows, you will use normalizer transformation. Are you with me, please? The requirement. Converting single row data into multiple rows, we have to do it. You have in it ab initio, Yasin, the scenario? What they call the transformation? Same, huh? Okay, there is no denormalize here. I think you can do it. I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't know, Yasin. Basically, I didn't work on mainframe or COBOL files and all. What do you feel, ab initio? Both? I'm not asking about the tool performance. What I'm trying to drive the point is learning the tool. or using the tool. You feel any difference? Yeah. This is like a Toyota, that is like a Honda, that's all. Yeah. Both are cars. Now come back. Source I have defined, target I have defined. Now I'll create it. The transformation called normalizer. Now look at it. You don't create ports here. Please observe it. You don't create ports, you will not have the flexibility to create it. So normalizer is the port. Now, what is the output what is the input you are getting that you create here? What is the input? Year is a number. Account is a string, 50 characters. Amount is a number. But how many times this amount field is occurring? This is called occurrence. How many times is the amount field occurring? It is occurring 12 times. Means it will generate 12 rows of data. It will generate 12 rows of data. 12 columns of amount is occurring. So I put the occurrence as 12. Please write it down somewhere. So in the normalizer transformation, input is year, account, and the amount is doing 12 times. So occurrence will be 12 in the normalizer transformation. So year, account, till amount, you will link it. Automatically it will create the ports. Then output is being created by itself. You connect year to year, account to account, amount to amount. Then there are two columns which Informatica will create automatically. So what it is? It is called generated key and generated column identification. GK is called generated key and generated column identification. Yeah, I haven't used it. Just it is split off my mind. Just I dragged it to the normalizer. You need it. After source call for you have to put the expression transformation. But just I kept the normalizer, that's all. One thing I want to say is it's a best practice, that's all. So you have a generated key and the column is generated column identification, GCID. So these are the two keys which will be created by the normalizer transformation. So how it works? GK amount and GCID amount. Now in Informatica, you have the year, account, amount 1, amount 2, amount 3, amount 4, amount 5, amount 6. Like this, there are columns. Now input data comes in. Let's say 1997 for the salary account, for the amount field 1100. I'll put the data directly here. So 1997 year 1100. Data is coming into that transformation. Let's say there are 12 columns, and you have put year, account, amount, GK amount is the column. So you have the target table, year, account, amount, so you have linked the year, you have linked the account, you have linked the amount. Now what happens? If there are 12 columns, it will form 12 loop internally. It will loops internally of your Informatica transformation. So first, for the first loop, I'll write it here so you will understand it. First loop, this is output. 1997, account is, sorry, this should be salary, please. I made a mistake here. This is salary. So 1997, what it will do, I'm talking about internally what happens. So first record, first loop, when it goes to this amount field, 1, that amount is 1100, will go to this amount field. Then what happens in GK field? For the first loop, it will put as 1. For generated column identification also, it will put 1, because the loop, first column of the number of fields you are taking it out, so it will take 1. When the second field it comes, then second will have 1200. Second loop, first output it will go. Second will have GK amount will have 2, GC ID amount 2. Third loop forms internally, so 1300, GK amount will have 3, GC ID amount 3. Like this, sequentially number will be generated. After the 12th record is loaded, let's say 12th record is 22,000, GK amount will have 10, 12, and GC ID amount will have 12. Loop is completed. Then second record comes in. Then the second record comes in. First record, 12 rows have been loaded. When the second record comes in, whatever it may be, amount 1997 expenses, what GK amount will have is, it works like a sequence generator. But for that load only. It will not remember the previous value and all that stuff. So 13, it will generate. But whereas, as soon as it starts at the second record first loop, GC ID amount restarts at 1. That indicates 12 columns, 12 times. Then again second row, when it does, GC ID amount will have month 1, month 2, column 1, column 2, column 3. Like this it will generate the process. So at the end of the second row, when it ends, the last number will be 12. Whereas in a GK amount field, it will be 24. Then if the third row comes in, then this will become 25. But when the third row first amount field comes, then GC ID will have the numbers. So in a single row, how many columns you have, that many numbers it will be generated in the GC ID amount field. So we will connect GC ID amount field, which will have for each record month of 12 months, 12 rows of data will be loaded into the target table. GK amount is a generated key sequence number for that session only. Where GK amount will be used, I don't know. Maybe you want to calculate the total number of rows, I don't know. But for this example, GC ID amount field will be used to get the number of the month. So I linked GCMD amount field to the month field and save my work. Clear, everybody? Clear? Please write down this source and target connections. I'm not getting any message. Have you sent it? Okay. Please write down this source and target. Please write this session also. So let me execute this. Source connection, target connection, change bulk to normal, create the workflow, and save your work. Let me delete my target data first. So it has loaded the 12 records for 1997. There is only one source record, so it has converted into 12 records. So this is how you do the normalizer transformation. Now this is a very simple mapping. You want to extract the data from SRCEMP table and route the data into TGT rank sal table. The purpose of this mapping is, I want to load only the 5 salaries, top 5 employees who has the 5 salaries, highest 5 salaries. That data only I want to load into my target table. Along with when I load, I need ranking numbers. Who is first, who is second, who is third, who is fourth, who is fifth. So that should be in the ranked column of my target table. And I want only the top 5 salaries, employees information to be loaded into my target table. That is my business requirement. So let me create the mapping first. The source is src_emp, which you have already defined it. I will define the target table, import from database. TGT rank sal is my table. So I create a mapping, m_15_. So SRCEMP table is my source. I need to load the data into TGT rank sal. Transformation create expression. So I'll take what are the columns I require. That is employee number, employee name, and salary. That's all I need for my target table. This data should be loaded plus this ranking. For that, Informatica provides you with a transformation called rank transformation. The purpose of this rank transformation is to rank top or bottom top or bottom range of records. You have to rank it. So when you create this rank transformation, to rank the top or bottom, it needs a complete data set, so it has a cache. Rank transformation will have a cache and it will rank the top or bottom based on which column you want to rank it. That is defined by this R port, rank port. You can use this as an aggregator plus ranking. That is, you want to find the total revenue and you want only top 5 revenues. So without using aggregator, you can use this as aggregator transformation plus ranking. That's why you have input port, output port, variable port, and a group by port. R port here is called rank port. On which column you want to rank it, that you specify in this R port, and you can do only on one column. Limitation is you can do only on one column ranking. Top salary, and less in commission. Like that, I cannot do it. So in a rank transformation, you will do top or bottom. I want top 5, or only I want bottom 5. Like that, if you want it, then you use top or bottom ranking in Informatica. For that, you use rank transformation. And whenever you create a rank transformation, automatically it will create a column port called rank index. In this rank index port, it will keep that rankings 1, 2, 3, 4. What is your ranking? It will keep it in the rank port, rank index port, which is a default port of your rank transformation. So I'll create the rank transformation now. Transformation create rank. Syntax for rank is R and K. I'm doing it on SAL, so I put it as SAL. Please observe it. As soon as you create a rank transformation, automatically it will create a rank index port by itself default. An employee number, employee name, salary. Then Informatica rank index is the default port. On which column you want to rank it? On which column you want to rank it, you specify it. I want to do it on SAL. And you can do it only on one port. You cannot do it on multiple ports. So rank on SAL. Then go to properties. By default, it has a cache. On which column you are ranking, that will be your index cache. Then you have top or bottom. You specify top or bottom. Top or bottom. The number of ranks. So either you specify top or you specify bottom. The number of ranks, you want top 5 or 10 or 20, how you want it, you can specify in this. And you say OK. Then I link this rank index to this ranking because it will store the rankings. And I link this employee number to this. That's all about rank transformation. So open your sheet, please write down this. Then write down this session name and the mapping, the source connection name. I'm going to create the workflow and the session. Mapping, source, trainer SB14, target SB14 for me. Change bulk to normal. Workflow, close. And save your work. Then I start the workflow. So I execute this. There is some problem. Right? Yes. Yes. I don't know. It is giving disabled. Okay. I'll check it out. It is there, I think. In that edit here, I disabled, I think. Thanks, Yasin. Okay. Table or view does not exist. Maybe my connection. So here it is target, I guess. These are the top 5 ranks. With this, I am done for today. Anybody has any questions, please ask. So tomorrow we will discuss about union transformation and Sita's question on debugger. And we'll start on data warehouse project. Any case study will start off tomorrow. So, okay. Then I will transfer. How many day sessions and workflow reside in workflow? It will not days, it will keep last 20 sessions. It will keep last 20 sessions. So go ahead and do this lab.